Why doesn't everyone know about this?
This is a whole can of worms. Nothing will ever be the same.
Hi, I'm Lauren Berlingeri, co-founder and co-CEO of HigherDOSE, and I'm here today with Jay Godfrey, who's the founder of Nushama. So Jay, do you know what we're doing today?
A little bit.
Okay, so we're gonna do a 60-minute infrared experience and then followed by a 3-minute cold plunge challenge.
Love it.
And we're gonna talk all things ketamine therapy, which I'm super excited and very fascinated about. Personally had my own ketamine experience, which transformed my life. So I'm actually really interested today to find out how it transformed yours.
Wow, how much time you got?
Yeah, let's start from the beginning. How about that?
Sure. Around 2015, I was not feeling good. Something happened to me in my fashion business that made me feel, like a failure, tons of self-blame, and lots of stories in my head. I started seeing this therapist for about 3 years, once a week. I think I did the math once. It was like north of $50,000 I had spent on therapy.
Yeah.
I remember reading a book called Game Changers.
Mm-hmm.
There was a chapter on adaptogenic mushrooms, functional mushrooms, and all these different kind of biohacks. That led me to Michael Pollan's book,
Yes.
How to Change Your Mind.
Mm-hmm.
I'd come to the conclusion that this was for sure the future of how people with mood disorders, be it depression, anxiety, addiction, PTSD, OCD, eating disorders. I was convinced this was how you treat people with these issues, but I wasn't convinced it was for me.
Right.
I said, this is for people who like drugs, still at that point. Finally, my very first journey was with a plant called sassafras. Which
It's like
is
natural MDMA, right?
pretty much, it's a heart opener. And it got boosted with psilocybin.
Which is more of a mind opener.
Well, it varies for everybody. I mean, I look at psilocybin personally as more of like something that ignites the spirit, and sassafras or MDA or MDMA, any of those heart openers, as something that really allows an opening into your heart space. And people like me who tried this for the very first time at 39 years old, I didn't recognize that for about 30 plus years my heart was completely closed.
Oh, wow.
I did it outdoors looking up at the stars. And I remember saying to myself, nothing will ever be the same. There's a cliche in the psychedelic world, which is true. It's like 5 years of therapy in 5 hours. And I was able to work.
Because you become the therapist, I feel like, in psychedelics. Is that the difference? Someone telling you versus you doing the work yourself?
Yeah, in many ways, it's about igniting that healer within. Shamanism, which is the foundation of all this psychedelic work, is all about accessing that internal healer. And it's not about actually the sassafras or the psilocybin or ketamine or LSD or DMT or any of the other psychedelics. It's really about what they do as facilitator molecules. They open you up, they allow you to see, and really the real work comes when you decide, okay, I've learned something today in my experience. How am I going to integrate that into my life?
Yeah. So Jay, what's the science that backs ketamine therapy?
The physiological response is that when you take a sub-anesthetic dose of ketamine or a psychedelic dose, and you go through a process called ego dissolution, there's imaging to prove that areas of your brain that either haven't communicated with each other or haven't communicated with each other within a very, very long time, perhaps since your childhood or since a specific trauma, they're reconnecting. So there's something called neuroplasticity, synaptogenesis. These are things that are verifiable using fMRI machines, and you can see the new connections that get created.
Does it help with things like Alzheimer's, dementia, any sort of like kind of inflammation or gray matter on the brain that, is not healthy? That's
a great question. So psychedelics in general, Johns Hopkins is currently doing studies. They're at very, very early stage. What we will say anecdotally, that Nushama and within practice is we can totally see why this works, simply because of the neuroplastic effect of the brain.
Got it.
So that is the verifiable science. There's another aspect to this, which is why I'm here. This isn't about just giving a medicine to somebody. and having it do its work on its brain. There are some physicians that believe that.
Yeah, because some ketamine clinics, you could just do ketamine and watch Netflix, right?
That's right. With us, it's a whole hospitality experience where there's intention setting, you know, you're putting an eye mask on, specific music, you're going in a zero gravity chair.
Do you go into the room during session with somebody, or are you by yourself? You
can do either. You can have a hand holder or not a hand holder, it just depends on preference. The psycho-spiritual component of any psychedelic experience, but specifically a ketamine journey, is that when your default mode network in your brain starts to quiet, you're going to experience something. That might be euphoria. You might feel like a connection to the broader universe. You might feel a connection to the little girl that you were 6 years old. You might feel a connection to your ancestors, relatives, pets, to the world in its whole, but you'll feel a connection to something.
That's amazing. Are you not like sweating as much as I am?
I'm good.
You feel amazing?
I love this.
Good. Doesn't it kind of get you high, where your heart's kind of racing, you feel like you're like on a light run with me, and you know, when you can kind of get deep with somebody? There's
a cleanliness to my inner being right now.
Right, like a purity.
Yeah.
It's funny, I always feel like you release so much oxytocin, especially when you do this with somebody. I mean, yes, we're like half naked, which I'm gonna get a little bit more naked right now because I'm really hot. But you are like sweating, making eye contact, and having deep conversation in heat, which ultimately tells the nervous system to calm down and relax in your safe parasympathetic state. So you can really go into like these safe kind of open conversations with people.
You know, men, and this is a bit of a generalization, but I think it's true because we see it with our kind of member and patient base, is that men have trouble being vulnerable. I had a lot of trouble being vulnerable. Now I'm a little, now I probably shared too much. But, you know, and that's because society has instructed men that they've got to be the tough ones. And there's this fake news story going around that in order to be tough, you can't share your emotions. But what happens is, and you know this as good as any, if you don't let it out, it festers inside. So you're suppressing and repressing these emotions. And there's a lot of metaphysicians, you know, whether it be like, you know, Florence Scovel Shinn or Neville Goddard, these are kind of mystical writings from the kind of 20s and 30s. They talk about if you continue to repress these thoughts, they will show up as disease or dis-ease.
So what's next for Nushama?
We just signed an incredible licensing deal with a British drug developer called Awaken Life Sciences. And it is a protocol to treat alcohol use disorder. There's like 15,000 alcohol use disorder clinics in the United States. And the efficacy of these inpatient rehab centers, I'm sorry to say, is dreadful. 3/4 of the people are not getting proper care and are not either re-examining the relationship with alcohol or becoming abstinent. So this protocol involves the combination of ketamine with mindfulness-based therapy that we do to treat alcohol use disorder. And in the clinical trials, we found that after 6 months of doing this protocol, 86% of the people were abstinent.
Wow.
It's all about understanding and processing that trauma through your body. Did an hour go by already?
Yeah. I actually put up the sauna twice, so I'm like, I have no more water left in my body.
Good.
I don't know about you, but I feel completely cleansed and detoxed.
Totally. I'm not sure if it was the conversation or the sauna or both.
Yeah. You ready, Jay? Here we go. So we're going into our Edge Theory cold plunge. It's around 50 Fahrenheit. You ready to do this?
Let's do it.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
It hits you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just breathe.
Yeah. How does this compare to cryotherapy?
It's different because this is cold right away.
Yeah.
Work through the turbulence.
3, 2, 1.
Awesome. Wow.
Well, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
This was such a pleasure speaking with you, and so good getting hot and high with you. Make sure to subscribe and watch all of our episodes of Hot Seat on YouTube.